Hello and welcome to the Hilariously Unemployed podcast. I am your host and favorite opportunity seeker, Dana Duckworth, aka the Big Speaker. I got it written on my earrings, y'all. You like? I hope so. I'm excited to be back before you another Friday. So I know we went on a run where we had CEOs here. I had the CEO of Black Men in Tech and then the CEO of Earn Better, which is great because I want to provide my audience with resources. But it's time to get back to the true mission and vision of this show, which is to help someone get hired. So I am back to highlighting the job seekers, the people who really are hilariously unemployed for whatever reason, to tell their stories in hopes of helping them find their next role. This week for me has been phenomenal. I've been booked and busy. I got a chance to drive up to Baltimore and present at the Leasing Training Academy. And this is run by the Maryland Multifamily Housing Association. The amazing, incredible, and beautiful Candace Manning is running an amazing program where she is helping people get the skills they need to enter the multifamily industry. So it really ties to my mission. So she's doing career readiness, personal development, and also job placement, helping people secure their next role. So I really am proud of the work that they've done. They completely deserve the national award that they have. This program is amazing. And it's just nice to talk to people who want to enter our industry and hear, how excited they are about it. I share messages about personal branding, being authentic, culture, engagement, and really just leading with yourself. Also, this week, I was a guest on Thriving in Multifamily with Lisi Daniels, her amazing podcast. As much as I love being a podcast host, I love being a podcast guest because I'm a certified yapper, y'all. I like to talk. So it's very fun for me to get on as a guest. That means I don't have to do any of the prep. I'm just coming and telling my story. So thank you so much for having me on your show, Lisi. That is amazing. And we had a great conversation. And I feel like we need a part two because we kikied for a very long time. What's coming up next for me? Well, on Monday, I'm going to be traveling to St. Louis because on Tuesday, I will be presenting to the St. Louis Apartment Association members. We're going to do a DEI workshop, and I'm so excited about that. Big Speaker is literally on the move every week for the next 6 weeks. So catch me if you can. And if you're trying to catch me, you got to book me, baby, because I'm busy. All right, y'all. That's enough about me. I want to get to my guest, who I am so excited to bring onto the stage. Alejandra Mansilla is someone who's been in our community. She is the hilarious. She sat in the audience on a couple of episodes, and she actually came up to the stage at one point. I'm so excited to have somebody who's a part of our community, who understands the hilariously unemployed, who is a hilary, to join the show. I want you to know that she is a mom. She is a lover of people improvement processes. And she unfortunately is hilariously unemployed. Alejandra, please say hello to the hilarious.
Hey, I am so happy to be here and share my story. I appreciate you. Very excited.
I'm very excited. So you know how we get this thing started. First things first. How long have you been hilariously unemployed?
So I have been unemployed since January, and I can't believe it. I feel like I say it, and I'm like, I cannot believe I've been unemployed this long. But the truth is, it's a very, very tough job market for those of you that are out there seeking. You guys know how crazy it is right now. But yeah, I've been in the lookout since January. So it's
Yes.
been
So
crazy.
January is a long time. Here we are in August, nearly September. It's Virgo
September.
season, y'all. You know my birthday is September the 5th. So if you're planning on getting me a gift, you can go ahead and send a birthday early. But you've been unemployed since January. How are you doing? How are you really?
So right now I am in a period of waiting. So I had some final interviews on Monday. Had some last week as well. I did hear back from one already, and it was an unfortunate no. But I think honestly, right now it's been a tough week because I think the waiting, is just hard. I mean, I've been waiting for a while, but I think waiting also when like you go through final interviews, like it's so nerve wracking, especially when it's not a quick update. It's like, well, you have to wait until next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm a little anxious right now, but trying, on Monday after the interviews, I took like a bath, to put some relaxing music, and I'm like, it's gonna be okay. So trying to, motivate myself throughout the process, that has been definitely, just something that I have to do to stay positive.
Self-care is so important during the process of being a job seeker because being a job seeker is a job.
Yeah.
It literally is a job to be a job seeker, and you find yourself, like, spending 8 hours applying for
Hmm.
jobs, looking for jobs, fixing this, doing that, trying to figure out what platform to use what for, and really make yourself the best possible candidate. So being a full-time job seeker is a
Yeah.
full-time job that you unfortunately don't get paid for. So I'm happy to hear that you are doing some things in order to take care of yourself and to stay motivated, because I know it's not always easy. Now, the reason why you are on the show is because I saw your LinkedIn post saying, how you've been going through this process of unemployment, and really you've been very vocal, very transparent about what your process has been. And I'm like, girl, come on the show. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's definitely been, getting out of my comfort zone. I mean, I am very chatty too and outgoing, but I think being vulnerable and putting your feelings out there sometimes can be hard, right? Because it's like, when you have hard days, when you have days that you just can't no more, like it's hard putting it out there. But you have to be real, with all your feelings. Like I mean, literally like an emotional roller coaster, right? Like there are days where you're like, wow, I'm getting an interview, yeah. And then there are days it's like, oh, here comes another rejection. Ah.
Extreme ups and downs, extreme ups and downs that you have to be going through. Can you talk to me about what a typical day looks like for you?
Yes. So I have my boys. So I'm a mom. Like I said, first of all, I'm a mom. I have three boys. And right now, thankfully, this has been my first summer that I've spent, my summer with them present. Right. So I think even in the mixture of like, yes, logging on to my computer and getting on LinkedIn and looking at jobs, I think primarily I've really enjoyed this time with like being a mom and being present and, making them breakfast and sitting down with them, and then carving out some time to like, okay, now I'm gonna, these 2 hours are just gonna be for, looking at jobs or applying. And then, okay, guys, mom has an interview, and they're like, mommy, you have another interview? Like, how many interviews are you having? When are they gonna hire you? So they've been with me through the process, and it's so cute because they're always asking me for updates too. And
Yeah.
it's, I think something that when you're a mom, you have to be able to like plan, right? Like you can't just focus on like looking for a job, because even like you said, it's a full-time job. I think when you're a mom too, like I feel like God has given me the blessing to be present with them. So I also want to carve time first to be with my kids and then to look for a job.
Yeah, so it is like, I guess they say a catch-22 is like you have all of this time because you don't have employment, but that time that you have, you get to decide how you fill it, right? You
Hmm.
get to decide that, hey, I'm never going to have this much time again because I know that I'm going to be employed at some point in the future. Let me make sure that I am pouring into my children. Let me make sure that I am dedicating the time that you'll never get back. They grow
Yeah.
so quickly, especially over the summer. Once the school year starts, you look back at those photos and you're like, wow, where did the time go, right? My
Yeah.
children are entering their 11th grade. Like, where did the time really go? So it's lovely to be able to have that time. But I'm sure the questions are like, you going on another interview? Like, my kids still don't understand what it is that I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Questions are not always easy, but I'm glad that they're alongside you in the process of getting a new role. Now, let's actually tell your hilarious unemployment story. How did this happen to you? My girl, you're good at what you do. So,
Yeah. It's
where were you working? What was your role and how did it go down?
Yeah, it's been challenging for me because this is my second layoff in a period of 2 years, right? So I was at RealPage for almost 12 years, and I had a very stable job, and I decided to, look out and see what else was there out there. And I went to Nurture Boss. That was my first role as a director of customer success. And
Mhm,
unfortunately, that was my first layoff. That was 2022 to
mhm.
2022, November of 2022. And then, coming into a new role at Funnel for a year, and then right after the year getting laid off again. It's definitely it's been harder, I think, this time around. I think especially when so much time has passed, right? I think my first layoff, it was during Thanksgiving break, and it was hard, but like thankfully I found a job like in a period of 2 months. So it wasn't that long of a gap. But January through like almost September, like it's been such a long gap,
Mhm.
that I am definitely ready to work. I'll tell you that I'm definitely ready to give it my all. I wish that interviews were quicker and that people could see the value that I bring to the table right away, and they could tell me, "Hey, girl, like, come on, let's get it started. I need you in my team." But unfortunately, the processes are definitely very different than before, right? I think before, like, you had an interview and like you would maybe get hired in a period of 2 to 3 weeks depending on who the company was. Now
Mhm.
it's like, okay, first you have a screening and then you have an interview, and then how many more interviews? Well, there's four more interviews. Like, it's interview after interview. Like, the process of an interview, I mean, typically what I've experienced, I would say like a month and a half, 2 months even. And then going through the process and then maybe not hearing back and getting ghosted, like, just, it's tough. Like, it's definitely different than it was a few years back.
It definitely has to be just the time, like time, especially when you're waiting on a yes, when you're waiting on news that you want to be exciting. It's like you try to trick your mind into like, let me just forget about it, not think about it, don't worry about it. And then there's another part of your mind that has like this hope that's like, oh, I know this is the one. I killed it. Of course they're gonna call me back. And I know that companies are looking to make sure that their interview process is thorough because, of course, they want to make sure that they have the right candidate for the position. And with turnover comes cost, right?
Hmm.
But now we're starting to see a lot more open roles,
Yeah.
but it's still a shortage because so many people have been impacted by unemployment over the past couple of years. So the playing field is really like it's deep. There's
Yeah.
so many people that are looking for the exact same thing that you are, and it's hard to make sure that you're standing out. And then employers are looking for more people, but also are trying to improve processes, are using AI, are using people in the processes, and everything just takes so much longer.
Yes, and it definitely isn't what it used to be too. I think before you apply for a job and it's like, oh, you wait to hear back, you just send your resume and that's it. I'm not saying that you cannot get interviews like that, because I'm sure there's once in a while you might get an interview like that. But the
Mhm.
reality is that just clicking on apply like isn't gonna do it anymore. Like, you have to go further, right? You have to put yourself out there. You have to, one of the things that has worked for me is like making sure that I'm active on LinkedIn, right? Like, that my
Mhm.
profile is, I have like featured posts, that I have like my timeline of my job history, that it doesn't look like my resume, that like I just go a little bit above, like extra, to like making sure that I'm like standing out, right? That I'm connecting with people, that I'm sending them a message, that I'm researching their company, that I mean, there's so much to it. Like you said, it's a job. Like, it's not just like, oh, let me just click on apply and that's it, because it
Yeah,
doesn't
someone
work
on
anymore.
LinkedIn actually commented, Anne Marie Hobson, it's different than it was even 7 months ago. So the role of the job seeker is evolving because the job seeking process is evolving. And now this is required, or we want that from you, or we're doing it this way. And it's really hard to keep up with, especially if you're a person who's had steady employment for a long time. You haven't had to do these things or seek a job, or if you were seeking a job, you already had the security of another one.
Hmm.
So now you're just kind of in this different space where it's like, this is the only thing that I can focus on, but it's constantly changing, evolving, and growing as I'm trying to catch up. It's a very difficult space for people to be in. So let's go back to talking about your layoff. What was the reason behind it? Was there any restructuring, acquisition? How did it all go
Yeah.
down?
So definitely restructuring. So they had decided to remove customer success completely. And so a couple of customer success managers that were at the company, they ended up getting different roles. My heart has always been with customer success implementation, even though I love the role. Like, I feel like I'm more of a long-term relationship person. I don't like to just keep my customers for a short period of time and then let them go. So it definitely wasn't for me. But two of my other colleagues also got laid off. So some of them got either, like I said, just a different position at the company, and then the other colleagues got a job really quick. And that's another thing too, that like mentally, like it's hard, it's like you see people get laid off, and then sometimes it's like focusing on your own journey, right? Now looking at like other people, oh, like how did she ended up getting a job so quick? Like that's not fair, so it's like you have to focus on yourself, because if you focus on other people, like everybody is on their personal journey, and like God knows why the wait for you is longer, and you just have to focus on yourself.
Yeah, it is hard, that comparison of like, hey, they just announced that they didn't have a job last week, and now they're announcing they have a job, and I've been waiting to announce anything. It's very hard, but they say comparison is the thief of joy. So
Yeah,
you really have to stay in your own lane and keep
yeah,
focused on what it is that you're working towards, and then be excited for those other people, because you know what the journey is like
yes, yep,
feeling relief for them, and then
yeah,
just hoping that your day, your opportunity is not far off.
yep.
So when you think about the work that you've previously done and what you kind of want to do in the future, have you considered changing industries, or are you still looking forward to staying in the same field?
Yeah, so I have considered changing industries. I think it's very hard. Like I have interviewed for roles that are not within multifamily, and I feel like it's even harder because they're looking for someone that has experience in their industry, and I'm like, I don't have experience, but I have, when it comes to customer success, I feel like customer success, that skill set for a customer success manager is very transferable, but
Mhm.
just the way that the market is like so competitive, I feel like people would rather hire people that already have experience within that industry. Because I've tried to, sometimes I've gone to the final interview and it's like, I'm sorry, but you don't have, like e-commerce experience, or like whatever the industry was.
Mhm.
um I do actually have right now a job that I'm just waiting on an answer. It's for single housing for the single family home. So it's a little bit different industry. I mean, kind of sister with multifamily. I'm
Mhm.
excited about that. Also, it's a different role. So it's for a product, more on like the product management side of things. And even though I don't have experience as a product manager, I feel like all of my years as a customer success manager, we've worked very closely with product management, and we've seen like at the end of the day, it's also like that relationship building, making sure that we are being the customer's advocate and in the product that they want, and trying to listen to feedback. So I'm excited about that role. I'm hoping that it works out, but if it doesn't, I mean, I think that's another field that I can potentially maybe transfer my skill set. So that is something that I've looked into, just because customer success, I think it's very competitive right now, and so trying to see where my skill sets are transferable right now
Yeah.
as well.
My fingers are definitely crossed for you. What I will say is that I know Google is doing some certifications for, product management, program management, people who do that. So if you can find some of those courses, which I believe are free, Microsoft
Yeah,
also, that'll be great to help you, pad your resume, because like you said, people are like, oh, you don't have experience in this specific field or in this specific title. Job People who have these jobs are often not willing to give that chance because they have such a wide pool.
yeah,
Whereas before you'd be like, okay, you have the basic foundational skills. If you are a people person, that is something that you cannot
yeah,
teach being a people
yeah,
person, right? You can teach the processes, you can teach the software, you can teach the scope of work and the requirements and expectations, but you cannot teach a person who just has that customer service, customer focused attitude, and they're able to do that. You can teach everything else. So, employers, I want to challenge you. If somebody is a people person and they can deal with people, because that's a special skill set, not everybody wants
yeah,
to do, you can teach them everything else. If your onboarding is thorough enough, you'll be able to get them up to speed. And if they're a good applicant for the job, like I know Alejandra is, they're already going to be researching your industry and doing their own learning to figure out what it is that they need in order to be up to speed. So take a chance on folks who are not cookie cutter for your job description, cookie cutter for your industry, because you are missing out on people that can make your process better. I think about it when I think about diversity, like if you have somebody from a different industry, perhaps there was something in that industry that they were doing a lot better than you, and you don't have any insight into that because you don't know that industry. So now you're welcoming a differing voice, a different opinion, somebody who knows things a little differently from the way that you all are used to doing them, to help you innovate and create and change your processes. I'll get off my soapbox for now, but I'm very
Well,
hopeful
good.
that that role
Yeah.
comes for you because I know you're able to do it.
Thank you. Yes, I am definitely determined, hungry, hungry to learn, hungry to grow, hungry to get hired. I'm like, my kids are going back to school. Let me get back to work. So yes, definitely trying to stay positive. But
Absolutely, absolutely. So, how long have you been in multifamily?
15 years. So I started out on product support. So definitely, I've stayed on the vendor side. I've
Mhm.
also considered about going to the operator side. I think it's a little bit harder to just trying to see where my skill sets fit in and on that side of the coin. But started out in product support, which I think gave me a very good insight into like, okay, what are the real issues that like our customers have, and then went over to customer success. Had amazing leadership, throughout my roles at RealPage that inspired me to grow and learn and definitely challenged me. And yeah, so I started out in the product support and then became a director and then back to a senior CSM. I'm open to either an individual contributor role or a leadership role. I think right now it's like whatever comes, I'm ready.
You are ready, beyond ready to jump on and take on that task. People, do y'all hear this? I have a candidate that is ready to get started. Right. So, how do you balance? Because you're like, I'm just ready for whatever it is, whatever comes. How do you balance the need to secure your next role? Because let's be honest, we got to get paid, right? Especially if
Yeah,
you're a mom, like you have to get paid, with trying not to sell yourself short in terms of salary, position, and the company
yeah.
itself.
I think it's really hard. I think for me, definitely, I think when you also get to more of like a leadership role, it becomes harder, right? Because it's like, okay, you know that you're going to get paid more. And if you want to look for a job that, you might be getting paid as a director level, like it's not going to happen if you're not in a leadership role. So trying to like balance that out, like, okay, you know, talking about it with my husband, okay, like what can we do? What's the minimum, without short selling myself. But I also
Mhm.
look at the company and I look at growth opportunities, right? Because I might not be making, maybe what I made at, at a different company, but as long as there's growth opportunities and a career path, for me, that's definitely important. I understand that the job market right now, it's not easy too. So I'm not going to be very picky on saying, oh, like I'm not going to work if I don't get paid this because I know I need a job, like fully transparent. Like I need a job. Like I cannot not have a job because we just cannot make it with one income. That's just the reality of how crazy and expensive life is right now. So just really looking at a company and determining, okay, they might not pay me what I was getting paid at, but is there growth opportunities to where in a period of 6 months or a year, I can get a promotion or I can get, a different title or a raise, right? So that's how I've been looking at it. I know it's different people have different perspectives. I've heard different feedback, right? Like I've heard like Alejandra, don't take, don't take anything lower than what you were getting paid. For
Yeah.
me, realistically, I mean, even though I would love to do it, just it's just not gonna work for us. Like I have to take it.
Yeah. Everybody who's not in the position of a job seeker has advice, like, don't settle.
Mm-hmm.
That's not enough for you. Until you are in that situation, you
Mm-hmm.
really can't tell people not to settle because we're trying to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are going to be some compromises that are made. Not everyone is going to get their dream job with their dream salary right out of the gate. Some
Yes.
people have to reduce their title, reduce their rate. For me, I decided I was not going to work another 9 to 5 and I wanted to really focus on my own business. But that also meant that I had to become a lot of things, right? I had to really hone the skills that I had and figure out how can I create a business from this. So yes, I do speak. That's great, but that's only one stream of income. And if I lose my voice tomorrow, what else is it that I am capable of doing to make sure that the ball keeps rolling. So now doing digital assets and I'll design things for people. So it's really about figuring out what you are, what you need and what you are so passionate about that you can't fold on. So
Yeah.
like I cannot fold on this regardless of what. I will go work at a restaurant, I will go work at a bar because I can't fold here.
Mm-hmm.
But there are places in which I can make that compromise to make sure that I have employment. So y'all, I know y'all got a lot of advice from people who are hilariously unemployed, but sometimes it's not
Yeah.
that way. You're actually going through it.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked a little bit about your LinkedIn and how you've kind of optimized it. Let's talk more about that and how you've been able to build a personal brand, which I think is so important. Whether you're a job seeker or not, having your own brand makes things a lot easier for you when you're focused on optimizing all of your socials, specifically LinkedIn, because you're a professional. Talk to me about your LinkedIn journey and how you've really been able to create your own personal brand.
Yeah. So I think for me, is one being authentic, right? Like not being afraid. Like for me, my family and my faith, that comes first. And like no
Mhm.
matter, where what platform it is, like I'm always gonna stand on like I'm a believer and I am going to be positive and I'm going to put out Bible verses and that's me, that's who I am, right? Besides me being a working mom, like I'm a believer and I'm not going to be shy about that. So not hiding like who you are, right? Like sometimes I think people think that you have to be two different persons. Like, oh, I'm going to
Mhm.
be different in Facebook and then I'm going to be different on LinkedIn. But for me, like I'm the same person. Like whether you find me on Facebook or you find me on TikTok or you find me wherever, like I'm going to be my authentic self and I am going to, be vulnerable. And like I said, I think that's the most important advice, right? Is like, it's okay to like be vulnerable and put your real feelings out there. And there's days that are good days and I go in and I make a video and I'm positive, and then there's days where maybe I'm not having such a good day and it's like, but trying to post constantly, right? Like, and it's
Mhm.
hard. I took a break for a period of a couple of months this year on LinkedIn because it was mentally like too draining, and that's okay. If you need to take a break and then you need to take a break from social media, like that is okay. Like it's not always, you're not always going to go on LinkedIn and be positive, because sometimes it can weigh you down, especially if you've been in the job market a long time. And even though LinkedIn can be a positive platform, there's some people that also can use it for not so positive things. So I try to
Mhm.
definitely spread positivity. That's my like my passion, right? Is like making sure that I'm not only encouraging myself but encouraging others that are in the same journey as well.
Yeah, you are a bright light for others who are along this journey and being authentic to yourself, whether it's LinkedIn or any social media. I love that you said that, like, whether you see me here or here, this is who I am. These are the things that I value, and I'm not shy about those. Also, taking a break,
Hmm.
like LinkedIn, when you are in the thick of it, when I first was like, oh, I'm laid off. What am I going to do? I'm trying to figure this out. I don't know what's going to happen from here. When you are in the thick of it and you keep seeing those posts rolling in and you see more and more people being laid off or more and more people celebrating jobs or more companies getting acquired or whatever is happening, and you're just constantly fueling the employment or unemployment fire that is in your brain and in your life at that moment, sometimes it can be really, really tough, which is another reason why I started my podcast. It was an outlet. Like, I just want to laugh about this because this is the mess.
Yeah, no, it's not easy. Yeah, there's days where like you wake up and you're like, yes, I'm gonna apply, I'm gonna shower, I'm gonna do this. But there's days that you cannot get out of bed because you're like, how many more days until they tell me yes, and like you look at yourself in the mirror, you're still in pajamas, and it's 2 o'clock. And it's I'm telling you, it's hard. But
Yeah, give yourself
um
grace for those pajama days because
yes.
you deserve it. You've been working hard at a job that doesn't pay. So it's important to make sure that you give yourself some space and some grace. Thank you for your comment, Marcus. It's about genuinely living the values you promote, both online and in your actions. Absolutely. And Alejandra is a walking testimony of doing that. Let's talk a little bit about startups and our love for them. We have that in
Yes.
common. What really draws you to startup environments? Because
Yes.
I know you want to work with any
Yes.
organization, right? That has the role that fits you and fits your values. But when you think about startups, I know you get that little flutter in your chest that
Yeah.
makes you happy. What is it about that environment and how does it compare to established companies?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've had the blessing of working at a very established company, right? Like Real Page. And then I had also the blessing of working at Nurture Boss and Funnel, which, Funnel, even though they've been out there for a while, I mean, it's still kind of like a startup mode, right? I think for me, the biggest thing and my biggest passion with startups is that like you can feel seen, right? Like the CEO knows who you are, right? Like, they can see you in the elevator and they can know who you are, and you're not just like a number like 3,000 out of 5,000 employees or whatever the number is, right? Is feeling seen and feeling heard, like your ideas, your contributions, like they can make a difference. And for me, that's like the biggest thing is like, oh, I went to Nurture Boss and I made a difference. I created reporting, I can tell you what I did even though
Mhm.
I'm not there anymore. And I know that even if I was there for a short period of time, like I made a difference. And that feels good when you create something from scratch. That's why I say I'm a process improvement lover, because a lot of times in startups, there's no processes.
Mhm.
There's a lot of like trial and error, and you have to be okay with that. And for me, that's something that I love. Like I love creating processes. I love seeing something flourish when there's nothing there. And then, like I said, just being a smaller number, I think you're just seen more than just a
You
regular
definitely
number.
are. The CEO for a startup that I worked for would say, "There's no hiding in this company. Like, there's not that many of y'all. We know who's producing, we know who's not producing, and then you have that autonomy to like, hey, we don't do this yet. Let me figure out how we can do it, and
Hmm.
let me show it to them." And 9 times out of 10 at a startup, if it is not built, you can build it, and they'll be like, "Okay, cool,"
Yeah.
because you just have that space to pivot and change and be very, very flexible. And you have the space to mess up and it be okay because
Hmm.
you're trying to build something that is going to be one of those very large machines. So I love that startup culture for that too. It also lets you kind of hone your skills and figure out like what you are made of
Yeah.
because startups like they move fast.
Oh yeah.
They move fast, they change often. So you have to figure out if you have the type of skill set that allows you to be in startup culture.
Hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about your values. When you're thinking about a company that you will join, how important is it that those values align with who you are?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of employers that may have a job for you, but you're like, something about that doesn't sit right with me. So tell me about your experience with that or how you feel
Yeah.
that.
Definitely. I think also as a mom, right? I think I have been a working mom for, I mean, pretty much all throughout I never took a break. This is my only break I've taken, and I guess not that I wanted to take a break, but you focus a lot, like, that as a mom, like there's always things that come up. And for me, like an employer that values that like sees me not just as a worker, but as a mom, knowing that like, yes, I'm gonna get my shit done and I'm gonna get work done. But there's times where like I have a doctor's appointment or I have to take care of like my kid. I remember one day at a different job that I had a couple of years back, my kid broke his arm, and it was like in the middle of in the middle of the day, like he was jumping in the bed. My mother-in-law was taking care of him, and I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry, but I have to go. And so
Mhm.
I left. But then the next like Monday, I remember like them telling me like, so how are you gonna make up your hours? So that for me, that's not the culture that I want in a job, right? Like I want people to know like, yes, I'm a human, things are gonna come up. Like I want them to value family. And you can tell a lot like by going on interviews, like what their priorities are, right? Like you can hear that like right away. Like, are they gonna expect you to be on call 24/7, or
Mhm.
are you going to have that time and be allowed to like be a human? That
Mhm.
for me isn't the greatest value, because I have family and I know that family is always going to come first no matter what. I've learned through my two layoffs that business is business at the end of the day. Like, yes, you have to be happy at a company, you have to give it your best, but at the end of the day, what matters, and the persons that are always going to be there and they're never going to lay you off, that's going to be your family.
Mhm. That is
So
correct. So
family for me is like definitely number one.
yeah, you have to take care of those bosses as well because they have very high expectations at home as
Yeah.
your family and they don't let you go. that is a story that I'm sad to hear, because if my baby breaks their arm, like there, I'm leaving, I'm going. There shouldn't need to be any time made up because I'm so good at my job. I've already done everything I needed to
Yeah,
do. And just having the
exactly.
trust in your employee that if there is a gap, if there is something that I'm lacking,
Yeah.
know that I missed this time. So I know when I come back, I'm going to be able to take care of that. So I
Yes.
think that as we interview, as those of you who are job seeking interview and try to find your next role, is just as important as interviewing the company,
Oh yeah.
asking them questions that get you to like what their values actually are, what the atmosphere actually is. Asking your interviewer, when's the last time y'all made a mistake or you had to pivot on something that you wanted to push out or you wanted to do or you had to change pace on an initiative? Like, share with me what that kind of looks like for you all. Is it that there are no mistakes that can be made here, or how do you deal with that and how do you rebound? So make sure that you have some questions available for that employer when you are going to the space to be able to identify what their values and their mission is.
Yes.
Well, Alejandra, I'm very excited that you came on the show, and I'm very hopeful that this is going to be a spark that helps you ignite whatever your next career is going to be. For any employers who are listening, those who are hiring, those who know somebody that knows somebody, tell them what your dream job is going to be. Tell them what type of employee you are, and tell them what you are looking for in your next steps. This is your chance to do your elevator pitch.
Yes.
Take this clip, attach it to your resume, whatever you want to do. This is
All right, girl. Well, like I said, for me, my passion is definitely, customers. Like I love creating relationships. That's my number one superpower. So I really have enjoyed, I think, throughout my 15 years in multifamily, I want a multifamily role. I want to stay within multifamily or single family as well. Like just the customers that I've built a relationship with are customers that I can still reach out to today on LinkedIn, right? Where like it's not just like a business relationship, but it's actually like, oh, I know this person as a human. And that for me is like the biggest thing, because when you build a relationship, then you can build trust. And when you're a customer success manager or whatever role you're in, they trust you that you are going to be delivering results, right? That you're going to make sure that they're getting the value of the product. So that for me, we are choking already. um, I was so emotional that I'm like, ah. That for me, definitely, I think is the biggest superpower is just that relationship building. And then also just process improvement, right? If you are a startup and you are looking to, enhance like your documents that you have or any type of processes, videos, I am your girl. I'm bilingual as well. So any type of Spanish, interpretation for like training videos that you have,
Mhm.
reach out to me as well on the side. I was going to mention that I did start doing consulting earlier in the year as well, trying to pivot and trying to see, okay, what am I going to do in the meantime? And so if, maybe your company is not hiring full time, but they're looking for someone to, create SOP documents or how to documents, like I'm your girl, reach out to me. I am also passionate about that. So
Yes, Alejandra is your girl. You heard her. If you need anybody who does any of those things, don't look any further because she has those skills. Tell them where you're located in the country just in case there is something local as opposed to something remote. Where are you?
yes. So I am in a suburb of Minneapolis. So I actually moved from Texas 2 years ago. So I'm about 30 minutes from Minneapolis. I am open to a hybrid role, or even an office role. If you have an office in Minneapolis and you want me to drive over there, I am not that far away. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now, Minnesota.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show and for sharing your story. I really hope that your hilarious unemployment ends very, very soon for you. And I am rooting for you. And I know the audience is too. If you all know anyone, please consider Alejandra, connect with her, and push her LinkedIn profile to anyone who she would be a good fit for in their open roles. Audience, hilarious. I want to thank you once again for listening into the show. And Alejandra, last question. Do you have any advice for those who are in this situation?
Yes. So my advice is try to stay positive, connect with people that are in the same boat with you right now, that are laid off, so you can, just feel that community, because we are here to support you. We're in this together. And this network, because it's not going to be easy finding a job, but if you network and if you connect to, the right people, it just takes one connection, one divine connection to get you that job. Try to stay positive, keep doing what you're doing, send your resumes, connect, post on LinkedIn, even if it's, once a week, if you're not as comfortable. And then, throughout the weeks, maybe you can post twice a week. And then, that's how you begin to grow your brand. But try to stay positive. You got this, and you're going to get a job soon. It's just a matter of time, and the perfect time that God has for you.
That was perfect. Thank you so much for that. You're only one connection away from what could be your next opportunity, y'all. I want to thank you all for listening into the show or watching us if you are catching us live right now or on our YouTube channel. I have been your host, Dana Duckworth, aka The Big Speaker. This episode will be out on podcast platforms and anywhere you get your pod on soon. If you want to keep up with me, follow my LinkedIn because I'm going to be everywhere and anywhere that has booked me and paid me. I'll see y'all next time. Thank you for joining me. Bye.
Bye.